Hey everybody, it's John from Humor and History, and I have, well, what I think is the more interesting video. It's called The Surprising Reason Why British People Sing in American Accents. I just want to get into this. I haven't seen this. I want to know what it is.
Something struck me the other day about Adele and Lewis Capaldi and how their singing voices are so radically different from their speaking voices.
Hello, I'm Adele.
What happened was I got approached about it in 2019.
And people often ask that in the form of, why do British people sing in an American accent? But it's actually not just British people. It also happens to people from Ireland, South Africa, Australia, New Zealand, and all other parts of the English-speaking world.
I didn't even think about that. Yeah, they do.
So what does it actually mean to sing in an American accent? One aspect involves sounds before consonants and before silence, which many people in some of the countries I mentioned don't do in their normal speech, but do in singing. Harry Styles is from Redditch in Worcestershire, and most people there would say watermelon sugar without any R's. Well, in the unlikely event of any human being ever having said watermelon sugar before that song came out. Have you got any sugar? Yes, no, I've got cane sugar. Is it watermelon? No, there's no such thing as watermelon sugar, I don't think. However, when Harry sings it, he says watermelon sugar.
Watermelon sugar.
Another difference in that song is where most British people would say watermelon or watermelon, he says watermelon with a kind of, it's called a tap, so it's kind of like a little D sound. And people often use that when singing wherever there's a T or a D between vowels. And that's a common feature of North American English. For some more features, let's have a listen to Adele. Now, her normal accent is Cockney, because she's from Tottenham in London, also with some MLE influences. Now, I absolutely don't want to impinge on anyone's copyright.
I don't know what MLE is.
And in the spirit of fair usage, I want to concentrate on the pronunciation of the lyrics. So I've edited out, as far as I can, the music. As a result, the voices don't sound very nice. So I really recommend that you go off and listen to the songs in their full glory, however you normally do that.
He's a cool guy.
Never mind, I'll find someone like you. I wish nothing but the best for you. Don't forget me, I beg. I remember you said, sometimes it lasts in love, but sometimes it hurts instead.
Never mind, I'll find someone like you. I wish nothing but the best for you.
It's very true. Very English, or very American English sounding. Yeah.
She doesn't have rhotic R's in this song, but she does in Hello. Here, instead of her native mind, she's saying mind the first time round, but in other instances of the price vowel, she's going for a long R sound. So in kind and time. That's interesting because it's a feature of southern US accents rather than general American. I suppose the Beatles were among the first artists in the UK to start singing in American.
By the way, the southern accent in the United States is apparently closer to proper British English than the rest of the American accents. I didn't know that before, but...
And it wasn't always generally approved of. Apparently, Paul McCartney's dad suggested that they would sound more dignified.
I heard this.
If they sang, "She loves you, yes. That would have gone down well. North American English hasn't had the trap-bath split. So where Adele would say last, she sings last. The vowel in can't is interesting because in many parts of the UK that haven't gone through the trap-bath split, can't still keeps the palm vowel. So the Beatles might say, "Can't buy me love," but they sing, "Can't buy me love."
Money can't buy me love.
And talking of love, that's how Adele pronounces it too. It's so common that people have actually come up with the joke spelling of love. And that's also a feature of the southern US rather than general American. So why do non-Americans put on an American accent when we sing? Now, you'll notice I'm not saying why do we lose our accents, although that's a way that question is often phrased, especially here in the States. kind of suggests, though, that everyone sounds American deep down once you remove some kind of surface accent. And that's a bit of an odd assumption.
Yeah.
I actually made a spoof video about it, which I'll link to here and in the description below. And also, it's important to realise that it's not every time we sing. I mean, we're not all stood around the cake singing "Happy Birthday to You," unless we're channeling our inner Marilyn, I suppose.
Right.
It's when we sing American styles of music. And the US has contributed so much to global musical culture, especially during the course of the 20th century, and an especially huge contribution from African American communities.
Yeah.
And I think that that in turn explains some of those southern features that I've pointed out. There's something about music that's so fundamental, so we get swept up in the rhythm and the pitch, and I think also the pronunciation. And I think that's why it's much easier to imitate accents when singing, and I think that's why we do it without even realising we're doing so. I mentioned the Beatles earlier, and I think it's hard for us to imagine these days just how strong those American influences on them were.
I did
As
hear this.
kids, whenever a record by one of their idols came out, they had to get a bus across the city to go and listen to it at the house of a friend who had ordered it by mail order and had it shipped from the US.
Well, you know, the other thing I heard about the Beatles was living in Liverpool was obviously a big port city, and you know, people would come back with jazz records and things like that. At least that's what Paul McCartney said. So, you know, he said when he was younger, the sailors would bring stuff in.
They drank in the chords and the notes and the beats, and I think also the consonants and vowels. It's no accident that American styles of music like jazz, blues, R&B, rock and roll, pop sound better in American accents. What other kind of music would you expect Americans to invent? Voice coaches talk about the placement of the voice, where people imagine that their singing voice is coming out from an imaginary hole in the top of their head or from the mask. Imagining those things helps people configure their vocal posture, relaxing some muscles, tightening others, broadening or tightening the larynx, etc.
I don't know how you guys feel about this, but I think this guy's interesting. He brings up an excellent point, and I'm really fascinated with this.
Phoneticians describing speech talk about articulatory settings as the default posture of the vocal tract for certain accents. For example, inner lip rounding and protruding lips for French. So again, it's hardly surprising that the voice placement for musical styles born in the USA happens to correspond to the articulatory settings for American accents, which means it sounds better and is easier to produce using those accents. So what about American?
All right, yeah, I see what he's getting at. I didn't quite follow it, but I get the concept because I don't know I don't know all the phrasing that he's using. But I get where he's going.
Americans themselves, do they lose their accents when they're singing? Well, surprisingly, the answer is yes.
Do we?
As I said, some of those features, like praise and love, come from the American South. So singers whose normal accent is General American adopt those features when they're singing. Many Southern American accents are non-rhotic, and so many American singing styles drop the R before consonants and at the ends of words. Here's Bruce Springsteen singing Born in the USA. Born in the USA. Not an R to be heard. The Broadway accent is also non-rhotic.
So just a quick thing, there is something about rock music where it becomes, at least I feel this way, it becomes more true, it becomes cool, not cooler, but there's a better sound to it if you do sing it with more of a southern accent, if you can kind of pull it off. There's more of I don't know, a comfort level with it in Americans. The way we would sing it, or the way Bruce Springsteen sings it, because he's from New Jersey. He doesn't have a Jersey accent. So, New Jersey in the U.S.
Because these examples from Barbra Streisand's show, together, spare, care, learn, somewhere. Now, for those of us with a passion for learning languages, the fact that it's so easy to imitate pronunciation when singing, to the extent that people don't even realize they're doing it, means that a good way for you to improve the accent of the language you're learning is to find songs that you like and sing along to them.
Interesting.
Well, I hope you found this video interesting.
All right. That is an interesting dude. I may have to watch that another time on my own, but you know, he brings up a good point about the Beatles, also about Americans singing in a Southern accent. Those are only a few people, but a lot of those do come from the influences, and it makes perfect sense. What do you guys think? Did I miss anything, or what are your thoughts on it? All right, I'll talk to you guys later. See ya.